Bet horse racing on DRF Bets. We'll match your first deposit of $200. Get free expert picks and past performances, plus weekly cash back. All from Daily Racing Form, the most trusted name in horse racing. Dan Illman taking a look at race number 10 at Gulfstream Park on New Year's Eve. It's the Grade 3 $150,000 Harlan's Holiday. We're going 1 mile and a 16th on the main track. Let's take a look at this field. This race might have the makings of a local prep for the Pegasus World Cup. You've got the Fountain of Youth winner, Simplification, the West Virginia Derby winner, Skippylongstocking. These horses are strong 3-year-olds with credentials, some decent older horses in here as well. It's really a sort of interesting race, one of several graded stakes races on the New Year's Eve Saturday card. And what could be key in determining the winner of this race is the pace. We throw up the Timeform US pace projector. It's the rare gray bar scenario. Timeform US parlance, that means no speed, and there really isn't a lot of speed in this race. Simplification has tactical speed. Skippylongstocking has tactical speed, but there are no true burners in this race. The good news for fans of Simplification and Skippylongstocking, who project to be two of the favorites in this race, is that they won't be hurt by a lack of pace. Maybe that won't be the case for the number 1 O'Connor, who was one of the better dirt horses in his native Chile, a Group 1 winner earlier this year, going 1.25 miles in South America. Let's watch his North American debut, and I think this surprised his new trainer, Safi Joseph, because I think Safi likes this horse at 9-10 furlongs. This race at Gulfstream was 1 mile and a 16th, and O'Connor did benefit from a quick pace up front, but he made a very eye-catching 3-wide burst, exiting the backstretch through the turn to make the lead. And as you see in the stretch, he wins as much the best. Can he adapt to a slower pace? Can he stay close enough and still kick on home? That's really the big question for O'Connor as he steps up into the graded stakes race. I think he's pretty good. He earned a 99 Beyer speed figure last time out, and drawing this inside post with a short run to the first turn might help him stay a bit closer to the lead. The 2 is Pioneer of Medina, a horse that ran in the Kentucky Derby this year. He showed some promise early in his 3-year-old campaign for Todd Pletcher. He was 3rd in the Louisiana Derby, although no match for top 3-year-old Epicenter. Didn't run very well in the Derby, didn't run very well in his 2 starts after the Derby, but he got back on the beam last time out in a second-level allowance at Churchill. He didn't break very well. He was last early. He came with a 4-wide bid. There was some pace for him to run at, and it looked like he had all the momentum, was going to go by the odds-on favorite and win by 2 lengths at least, and instead maybe he hung a little bit, maybe the favorite battled back. He was able to secure the decision by only a half a length. I'm still trying to figure out how good Pioneer of Medina is, but Todd's showing faith in him, throwing him in this graded stakes race, and we've seen Todd's success historically at Gulfstream Park. It's excellent. He has shown speed in the past. If he could find that speed, it would make me a little bit more interested in Pioneer of Medina. He just hasn't shown it since the Derby debacle. The number 3 is Cooke Creek, who started his career in pretty good form for trainer Jerry O'Dwyer. He won a stakes race at Delaware in his second lifetime start. He was graded placed, although a weak edition of the Nashua in start 3. Stakes placed, albeit in a weak edition of the Jerome in start 4, and since then has done nothing. Just bombed in the Withers, Peter Pan, and Pegasus. 2 of those races on wet tracks. The last race preceding this one, a long layoff. Maybe something physically went amiss in the Pegasus. Well, you may not see the names in the company line of the Pegasus, and none of them might jump out at you. There's some good horses. 3rd place finisher came back to run 2nd in a first-level allowance with an 82, then won his next 2 starts, Byers 84-88. Cooke Creek might need a race. This is his first start in about 6.5 months. I think he has some ability. I think he's a little bit dirtied up, and I'd like to see him in a second-level allowance race, maybe later in the championship meet. He does have some tactical speed. Simplification won the Fountain of Youth and was 3rd in the Florida Derby, then was a good 4th in the Kentucky Derby, and then had an excuse in the Preakness. He reportedly bled, according to trainer Antonio Sano. After that race, again, plenty of excuses. He caught a wet track when Skippylongstocking beat him in the West Virginia Derby, a foreign concept for Simplification. And then he tried Taba in the Pennsylvania Derby. And then he tried Cody's Wish in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile.
and he was probably overmatched in the last 2 races, and the West Virginia Derby could have been a situation of surface. So then you're going back to the Preakness, a race where he bled, another excuse, and you're left with a horse that had a very good early season as a 3-year-old. My one concern with Simplification is obviously a contender in this race. I'm not sure how much he's really improved since the Fountain of Youth, and he's likely going to be a short price in this race, but his tactical speed puts him in very good stead. The 5 is South Bend, who's had a really interesting career. He's been capable on turf, although he's never won a race on the turf. He's been capable on dirt. He ran well in this race last year, second in the Harlan's Holiday. He seems to run well at a variety of distances and surfaces. I do think there are some class concerns, however, and there's certainly a pace concern because this is a horse that likes to come from out of it. He last ran going a 1-turn mile over a sloppy track at Churchill Downs. He ran quite well. He was only beaten ahead that day. They also went at pretty fair pace, and he benefited from it. This time around, if they go slow, he's going to have to stay closer, and if you just go through his past performances, that is just not what he does. He likes to sit behind and make one run. He's been a good horse for a while. Stakes winner way back in 2019 as a 2-year-old, but he's really going to have things go his way here. The 6 is Strike Hard. Strike Hard is the most recent race, in my opinion, is a throwout. They tried him on the Tapeta surface off a layoff in the Showing Up Stakes. It was a race that didn't have a lot of pace, and he just didn't seem to like the surface. His prior race was at FanDuel in the St. Louis Derby. He didn't run very well that day. That has me worried that maybe the class issue here against graded stakes quality older horses and pretty good 3-year-olds works against Strike Hard. I think what really works against Strike Hard, though, is distance. I like him a lot better as a late-running 1-turn horse, whether it be at 7/8 of a mile or a 1-turn mile. And he's going to have to go 2 turns in a mile in a 16th here, another horse that doesn't have a ton of speed. Skippylongstocking ran well enough to be 3rd in the Belmont Stakes behind Mo Donegal and Nest. He then won the West Virginia Derby on a wet track, and he popped a big Beyer speed figure that day. A little bit of an anomaly. Maybe just seemed to love the wet track. His sire, Exaggerator, certainly liked it. And last time out in the Pennsylvania Derby, again, it was a situation. He's in against Taba, and it just didn't happen for him on that day for whatever reason. I like that he was freshened by Saffie Joseph. He was brought down to his base at Palm Meadows to train for this race, and this is a very logical spot. He has enough tactical speed to stay close. I am concerned that if you take out the West Virginia Derby, while he's run some good races, none of them really stand out. 5th in the Preakness, 3rd in the Belmont was an okay effort, but without excuse. Skippylongstocking, though, does fit here. I think Clapton is a horse that you might want to consider at a big price, especially considering the pace scenario. Because although the outside post going a mile and a 16th at Gulfstream is not ideal, if there's really no speed in this race, Tyler can make an early decision to board Clapton and maybe send him to try to get good position. He ran well last time out this race, going a mile and a 16th where he came from out of it. The winner looks like he has a lot of promise and earned a big Beyer speed figure. Clapton in finishing second or a 96 Beyer in his own right. I like Clapton's performance 3 starts back at Gulfstream, going a 1-turn mile in a restricted stakes race. He was battling in between horses. He made an early move on the backstretch to be battling in between, and it looked like he was in a bit of trouble, hard ridden at about the 5/16 pole, and he dug down deep and just refused to lose, and he was getting away from the field at the end with a 95 Beyer. He has Beyer speed figures that put him in the mix. He is a 3-year-old that's battle tested and is capable at a mile and a 16th. I almost put him on top in my selections in here because he's going to be a very, very good price. I'm just curious to see if he's good enough against some top horses, older horses with potential, and some pretty good 3-year-olds as well. We get to my top selections in this race. I do respect Simplification. I do respect Skippylongstocking. I don't know if they have such an edge over this field that I want to take them at short prices. I want to see what we get from O'Connor, who's really the X factor in the race. He looked so good in his North American debut. It might be a completely different setup from a pace standpoint, but he's shown a lot of class in his career in South America, and he ran real fast in his first start at Gulfstream. I'll go with O'Connor, and I'm really interested to see what we get from the horse on the outside, Clapton, not only from a performance standpoint, but how they ride him from the outside post in a race without much pace. Could be a prep for the Pegasus World Cup, the Grade 3 Harlan's Holiday at Gulfstream on New Year's Eve. Good luck.